for everyone to know. Okay, so that then we can post this. So fiscal year 23, that will start July 1st, 2022. So it's for programs and activities starting July 1st of 2022 onwards. So just a quick overlook at our agenda. We will go into the evaluation criteria and scoring system for the RFP. You'll get some tips and tricks for writing a strong proposal. You also get some information about the advisory panels and how you can interact with them and address them. What happens after you hit submit? After you hit submit for your RFP, request for proposal, and then more technical assistance opportunities that are available to you. And again, we'll have time for questions at the end of this presentation as well. So we will be referring to what you should already be familiar with, which are, it's the RFP, request for proposal. It was part of our guidelines both for OSP and CCSD programs, and they are posted online on our website. So I highly encourage you to either go and check out the website now, or definitely as you are working on your proposal, always refer back to the guidelines and to this part of the guidelines specifically. So before we dive deep into the request for proposal, just a little overview and recap of the first part of the application, which was the request for qualification. You already all successfully completed this first step. And so during the RFQ, what we do is we basically determine whether your organization and your project are eligible to apply and to receive funding from the city. So what we looked at were eligibility requirements, like for example, your nonprofit status, where you are located, where your program will be located. Also, if you've ever, if you had in the past received any funding from the city and the performance on those agreements, but also we looked at your administrative capacity and all the financials, all that fun stuff, including the LUNA that you're all very familiar with. Who evaluated the RFQ? Our staff, and then also some nonprofit experts from the University of San Diego that we partnered with. And now you're into the second step of the application and of the RFP. So the city is now looking specifically at your organization, what the activities that your organization is proposing, but also the specific project, depending if you're an OSP or a CCSD, and looking at how you intend to serve the citizens and the visitors of San Diego. So you'll see that this part of the application dives a lot more deeper into specifically your organization and your programs, your activities, all the fun stuff that we want to hear about what you do and the beautiful work you do for our city and for the visitors of San Diego. You'll see that it's divided into these main buckets, let's say. So you'll be able to talk about the activities, the project, the community engagement, which is a big part, the capacity of your programming or the production of your event, and then achievement in emphasis areas. And tonight we'll go through each one of these buckets so that we can really go through them more in depth. Then again, we'll talk more about this as well, but all the proposals are evaluated by advisory panels. And these panels, the panelists are, there was a call for panelists that went out nationally and internationally. There are artists, cultural practitioners, and professionals in the field that have different skill sets and expertise from very different disciplines and backgrounds to reflect the variety of the organizations and programs that apply to CCSD and OSP. So this is what you should be already familiar with. So evaluation criteria. We're looking at two really important documents that you should really always reference and that they're available in our guidelines. These specifically are for CCSD, but the same will be available with the slight differences, of course, for OSP applicants as well. So to your left, you see the tier sheet. So this basically includes all of the questions that you will find on the portal on GoSmart. You'll see also the character count and the file format. So whether you need to provide a narrative, check some boxes, if you're able to upload documents. So all of that information is here, and it's really helpful also if you're drafting the answers outside of GoSmart, which is something we recommend, and we'll see later on as well. And then on the right side, very important as well, is the scoring sheet. So this is what panelists will keep to reference when they are reviewing your application. And so they'll be able to, of course, see the questions you answered, but also they'll have their evaluation criteria. So what are we really looking for in your answers? What makes a strong application, what makes a strong answer, and the scoring ranges as well for each of the questions. And we'll see some examples today. So this is the outline of the RFP. Basically, these bullet points represent the different sections of the RFP. CCSD has one additional section, which is the one that you see mentioned, that is called project budget and spending plan. The other ones are all the same for both programs. So let's look at the first section, the applicant profile. This section, as stated, is not evaluated or scored by the panel, but the panelists will have access to this, and it really provides some context about your organization. So it's really helpful for them to understand who you are, what your mission statement is, a brief description of your project, for example, for CCSD, and keep in mind that this will be published if you are recommended for any award. Work samples, what other people have to say about you. If you do work with a fiscal sponsor, what's the relationship between your organization and the fiscal sponsor? And just a little, since we're talking about fiscal sponsors, a little mention that this year something changed. So the applicant this year is you, is the organization that is doing the project. It's not the fiscal agent anymore, the fiscal sponsor. So when we say mission statement, we want to know what your mission statement is, not that of your fiscal sponsor, for example. But then we want to have that letter that basically states what the relationship is between you and your fiscal agent. What else? Let's look. The supporting documents from independent third-party sources. So you can upload up to 3 attachments. And what we want to know here, it's how others see you. So it will not be any letters from, for example, your board or staff. It's from outside sources. It could be people you have impacted in your community who have benefited from your project and your programs. It could be local partners who will be part of the program and of your activities, or who have worked with you in the recent past and who can talk about how wonderful your work is. So external, outside people and organizations that will talk about your work. And then work samples, you can upload between 3 and 5. And there are different also formats that you can pick. You can, for example, select a brochure, pictures, videos, articles. It depends. It really depends on, it's up to you. Whatever you believe really showcases the essence of your organization and of the program or project that you're proposing, then we encourage you to pick and to submit. Section 2. Now we're diving into the activities, the primary activities of your organization, if you're an OSP applicant, or the actual project that you're proposing, if it's for CCSD. This is where you will be really telling us what is it that you're seeking funding for and telling the panelists. A reminder is that we are in alignment with Council Policy 100-03 city goals. So you'll see that in the RFP, multiple times you'll be asked to go back to these goals basically and share how your project, how your organization is aligning to these 5 goals. So again, reference them, keep them in mind, and this is something that the panelists also will keep in mind as they're reviewing your application. And now we're looking more into the section 2. So to the left, you see the 2 questions that are part of section 2 for both CCSD and OSP. So for OSP, the first question will ask what the primary activities are, while for CCSD, what is the project that your organization plans to conduct during the fiscal year 23. And we want to know exactly what is it that we're talking about, when will that occur, what activities are part of this project, who are you serving, how many people, how are they engaged. Of course, there's more in section 3 and 4 that you'll be able to share with us about this. But this is something that it's basically a snapshot of what you're sharing with us. The evaluation criteria for the panelists is the degree to which the organization's activities and project achieve at least one of the city goals, which is the question 2 of this of the section. So explain how your organization operates to fulfill a mission that aligns with the purposes of TOT funding. So again, clearly state the link between the goal or the goals that your activity and that your project is tapping into and is meeting. The qualities of a strong proposal, again, clearly describing what you're doing and clearly linking what you're doing to the funding, to the 5 goals of the TOT. And here we have more of an example, more tangible. So for example, when you describe your activities and your project, make sure that someone else is reviewing and reading it, and that for example, a panelist would be able to tell someone else, really by just reading that for a question, what you're going to do, what your organization is about, what your project is about, someone who knows nothing about you. So it should be really clear from that one question what you're seeking funding for. And then for the second question about the TOT funding and the city goals, again, someone doesn't know what you're doing, how what you are doing, what you shared is clearly referencing to at least one of the goals. And how are you backing up that response? Do you have data to support that response, basically? Qualities of a strong proposal. Again, here we're looking at some examples. We talked about data, which is something that we highly encourage you to use throughout the application. Both quantitative data and qualitative data. So we're providing a couple of examples of what that means. So in the first example, for example, you see that, for instance, you see that this organization is providing numbers, 150 seniors in 10 senior living communities who are learning dance productions. They are reporting 50% higher resident satisfaction based on some surveys that they used, increased engagement between staff and residents. So they are providing tangible numbers of the outcomes of their activities. And then qualitative data that can include stories, testimonials, reviews. So anything that really shows the impact that your activities have on the people you work with and work for in the community. So here, for example, it's a testimonial from one of the people in the senior living community. the second example, again, showing quantitative data and qualitative data. So here, showing how the theater has produced X amount of new work, and then where that was showcased. It received national attention. And here you see that it really links contributing to San Diego as a national leader in the theater community, contributed to local economy. So they're bringing up all of the also goals of the TOT funding together with some numbers of their specific activities. And then in the qualitative piece, as you can see, they are talking about connecting with neighborhoods and their community to do their productions. So key takeaway from this piece is the relevance of data. So make sure that you incorporate numbers and relevant data in your proposals. This is really, really key. We cannot stress it more. Now we're moving forward to another really interesting and important section of the RFP, which is the community engagement part. So this section focuses on your organization's community engagement around your programs, the services, or the project that you're proposing. These questions really focus on your core audience or community. So those you serve, and the demographics, any relevant information about them, how you have chosen this audience, what does it look like, etc. So we'll look a little bit deeper into this. How, in the first question, for example, this is really where you'll describe basically the demographics of your core audience. The second question, we want to know how does your project or your activities, how do they impact that community? How is that community participating in your activities? How do they matter to them? And again, here we want to know both quantitative and qualitative data. So this could be testimonials from people who are part of your identified core audience, but also some core data. If you have any percentages of outcomes or any numbers related to what type of activities you brought and what that meant for the community. We also have equity and inclusion practices. So how does your organization and its activities or this specific project contribute to diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusivity for your core audiences and for the city of San Diego? So as part of the city, and so the commission is responsible to ensure that the funds used for OSP and CCSD benefit San Diegans of different cultures, ethnicities, income, abilities, genders, orientations, neighborhood. So this is really important for us to see how your organization is addressing this and how the funds will really support a variety of people in San Diego. So as of course, also different practicing equity and inclusion mean that we are acknowledging the different needs that different communities may have. So what is your project doing to identify these needs? How are you addressing these needs of the different communities? This is really, really important. And the answer will look very different based on what you do, what your project is, what your organization is, the identified audiences also that you talked about. And then virtual components. So we know that starting the past couple of years, all of you had to incorporate some type of virtual components in your activities and in your projects. We imagine that this will continue also for next year. And so here we want to know, how will you engage the core community and the audience using virtual platforms? For example, how will you track engagement of people virtually? you have been using, you all have been using different platforms. They come with different tracking system, and a lot of numbers and data became available. So share those with us. As a reminder, these two programs, OSP and CCSD, are public engagement expectations, and they do focus, again, because of the TOT funding that supports them, on San Diego communities and neighborhoods. So we do want to see some sort of in-person or focus on the communities and on the neighborhoods with virtual components, but not virtual programs in their entirety. And here we're looking at section 4, which is programming and production capacity, depending on whether you're an OSP or a CCSD applicant. So we want to know what is your experience doing what you do, and you do it well. And so brag about it and tell us more. What's your past experience producing the activities or the project that you are proposing? Tell us about the history. For how long have you been, has your organization been working and serving San Diego? Tell us about your success stories. So all of that will go in here. How will you use city resources wisely, for example, because you've done it in the past, for example? That could be one piece. But also, if you're a new applicant, this question is really so that we know that you're really a program or a project that the city should be supporting, even if it's for the first time. Then here we see another question that it's about access to resources other than financial ones. So what we're looking for in this question is who are your other community partners? It takes a lot to put up a fair or a festival, an event. So what spaces are you using? Do you have volunteers? Do you have some type of in-kind support? All of that is something that we want to find out through this question. The third question in this section is asking about your organization. Who are the key people that will be working on this project or who work for your organization? What are their qualifications? How do they ensure that the success of your activities and of your project? How do they contribute to it? And also, how do they reflect the identities of the core communities and audiences that you have identified in the previous section as well? And then again, talking about virtual components. So if you are adding virtual components to your programming, what is your experience with it? What does it look like? Do you have someone specific on staff who's handling any virtual events and the virtual piece of your project? What platforms will you be using? How are you planning on having a hybrid maybe type of programming and integrating the virtual component with the in-person activities? All of this information would go into section 4 because it's really related to the capacity of your organization to have virtual components. So continuing with section 4, we have a couple of new questions that are related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're both in relation to the communities you serve, as well as in relation to your workforce. So the first one is asking you, how are you contributing to decreasing disparities or advancing equitable outcomes for different groups that you have identified? So this is looking at, again, at your activities or the project, and how are you addressing either underserved populations or specific groups that your program is directed to, so your core audience may be belonging to. And then looking at your workplace, so looking at your staff and the people who work for you, whether they're on their salary, they're part of your regular staff, or they're contractors, or they're volunteers. So what efforts have you taken to create an inclusive workplace for them? And what efforts are you currently taking? Or or also in the past couple of years, have you done anything to diversify your board, the staff, audiences, the volunteers? So we want to know about these efforts in these two questions of section 4. And this section is only for CCSD applicants. So we put it as very important because in question 1 and question 2, they are asking about your budget. So they're asking about, question 1 is asking a specific number, the budget of your program. And the second one is asking you to upload the budget. So we ask you to please make sure that the numbers you're including in your RFP match what you shared with us in the RFQ. We will be, of course, double checking everything that you submit. If there are discrepancies, know that we will inform you, but we will be using what you have submitted in the RFQ, which was used to make sure that you were eligible for the second step of the application. So again, make sure that what you upload matches what you uploaded in the RFQ, and also the number of the final budget. But then also we want to know in question 3, for example, if you have already done this project before, what were the expenses for it? So we're looking at fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22. This is a new project and you don't have previous budgets, then you can just enter 0 in this question. And question 3 and 4 and 5 are related to your fiscal year 23 budget. Again, what you uploaded with your RFQ that you'll be asked also to upload here in the RFP, and our questions about explaining some of the expenses you may have, etc. So you can add some notes about how you intend to use, how your budget was built, basically. And then this is the following section. So it will be section 5 for OSP applicants and section 6 for CCSD applicants, which is the achievement in emphasis area. So this is the final section for the RFP, and it's really in relation to TOT funding. So the funding that supports these two programs. You will need to select and respond to 2 of the 4 prompts. So make sure that you select 2 of these. You don't have to respond to all of them, but just to 2 of these, and address you can also upload, there's a narrative portion for this, and also you can upload some documents. So basically, again, show how you contribute to achieving some of these goals. You will see that for example, for receive significant national and international recognition, you can talk about your programming. You can include some PDF of an article that went out on a national newspaper that talked about your activities. For question 2, you can share how many artists you have contacted with, local artists who work with you on a regular basis, or for your project for CCSD, how you intend to invest on local workforce. Then for question 3, in the guidelines, there the San Diego Promise Zone and the San Diego Communities of Concern, you'll see that there are hyperlinks that will show you exactly on a map what areas the city identifies the Promise Zone and the Communities of Concern with. So if your programs are tailored to these communities, work within these communities, make sure to highlight that as well. And then significant overnight hotel stays, because that's also part of the TOT funding. Again, back up with data as much as possible. So this concludes the sections of the RFP. Lots of information, I know. And here are a few tips and tricks and as you are filling up your RFP. So you'll see that there are character counts. Pay attention to those counts, but also know that long answers are not necessarily a synonym of better quality. As long as it's clear responses that you're providing, you're not really repeating information over and over, it's new information and it's really clear so that someone who really is meeting your organization and learning about your project for the first time can really get truly the essence of what you're doing. We invite you, we hope you already started working on your proposal. We know that most of you have, and allow enough time not just to write the proposal, but also for someone else to review it and to take a look at it. So again, for example, ask a third party to read it so that they can check not just typos and spelling mistakes, but also make sure that that it's clear. So ask them, you know nothing about us. Is this clear? Is this exciting? Is this something that that lets you understand who we really are and what we're proposing to do? Another suggestion is that of starting in Word, for example. So not just filling out the questions on GoSmart on the portal, but using a document and then transfer everything to the online application so that you make sure that you can check the word count, but also save your progress and avoid any technical issues with technology. Check the character counts, mentioned many times. And then again, pull up the guidelines and check the evaluation criteria that are posted on the guidelines. So as you are responding to the questions, always reference to those and see, am I hitting the criteria here? Are the evaluation criteria here that the panelists are looking for? And then, yes, we encourage you to save a PDF copy of your submitted application for your records. If you, this is the main probably tip that we'll give you, we're here to support you. You have time until February 6th to submit your application and until February 4th to reach out to us. We are truly here to help. So you'll see now what we offer you in terms of assistance, but reach out as many times as needed. That's what we're here for. And so what happens after you hit submit? So after you hit submit, we will collect all of the RFPs. They will be divided and your application will be assigned to a specific panel. Panelists who are assigned to your panel come from very different backgrounds. We opened up a call in November for panelists. We received really great applications. We also have panelists available from last year's pool of panelists. And so these people will be will be assigned proposals that they will be reviewing on their own. And then they will be meeting to discuss them as a group through a public panel. Right now, panels are tentatively scheduled for the week of March 14th to March 18th. These panels are open to the public. They're all virtual, and you are highly encouraged to attend. And we'll see why in just a second. Well, first off, you'll really gather great feedback just by sitting there and listening to panelists discuss your application. It will really help you in terms of understanding if something was unclear in your application. So for future applications as well, but in general, how is your application received by someone who is new to your organization potentially? And then the other very important key aspect is that you have the option to address the panelists at the beginning and at the end of the review of your application. And your comments, while you cannot really change what you've submitted, but they can help the panelists understand more your proposal. So this is how you're able to address the panelist. The first prompt will be at the beginning. So prior to the panel discussion, you can state who you are, your role, your name, and the organization you're representing. And you can basically give a snapshot of what are the highlights of the proposal that they're about to discuss. You have only 2 minutes to do that. Then the panelists will will discuss the application together. And at the end of it, you have another 2 minutes where you can address anything that wasn't correct that you heard, that they shared. So if you heard anything that was factually incorrect, that's where you can let them know that was not the right reading of it, and that was not right. And you can tell them what the correction is. So you're not penalized if you can't attend the panels by any means. If you can, again, it's great. All the information about panels will be provided ahead of time to organizations, so you'll know exactly the slot you'll be assigned to. We do try really hard to stick to that time. Things may shift a little bit, so it may be a few minutes later, but definitely you know whether it's in the morning of a specific date, and so hopefully you'll be able to join for that specific time. Then what happens? So panels will recommend final scores for each proposal to the commission. The results will be announced on March 21st, so the week after the panels take place. Applicants have 10 days to appeal if, for example, they weren't recommended for awarding. And then after that, in April, is when the full commission votes to recommend their ranks for each proposal to be included in fiscal year 23 proposed city budget. The final award amounts, which I know all of you are really interested in, but they will be confirmed just once the final budget is really finalized by the mayor and it's approved by the city. So basically that will happen, sometimes happens a little bit before June 30th, but June 30th is the hard deadline, and you will be then notified of the final award amount. Here we have some key dates for the RFP. So again, February 4th is the last day for questions. You can reach out to us and connect with us until February 4th. February 6th, which is a Sunday, is when you need to submit your RFP. Again, tentative dates for the panels. The results of the RFP will be provided on March 21st, and then the appeal period between March 21st and March 31st. And here are more opportunities to support you. Many of you have already signed up for one-on-one 30-minute appointments for technical assistance, which will start tomorrow until February 4th. That's where we can really dig deeper into specific questions that are specific to your organization and your proposal. These appointments are on a first-come, first-served basis, but if you don't find a slot that works for you, or a time or a date, you need something different, just reach out to us and we'll make sure to find time to provide support. And they're all done either via Zoom or Microsoft Teams. The link should be on our website, and it was also on the emails that you've been receiving as reminders for today's workshop. So here's my contact information, which you should all have. Please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to schedule some time to chat about your proposal. There's also the link to our funding page where you can find the guidelines with all the information we talked about. And now I am happy to look at check the chat and also take any questions you may have. So let me go ahead. Thank you. I'm seeing now your comments, and thank you, Kip, for sharing the link. So let's see. We have a question about a question 8 in section 1. Okay, that says provide up to 3 documents that reflect the quality and impact of your project. It says project, sorry, yes, I said about the organization, it says project. So this really depends also on whether you are applying to OSP or CCSD, for example. If it's for CCSD, then it's project-based. So we want to know more information about that. If it's OSP, is to support your organization. So it will relate to the organization itself, not to specific activities, for example. What if you can provide documents about other projects we have completed in the past? So if this is if you're applying to, and it's an anonymous comment, so I would say let's schedule some time for 101 and let's talk more about this. But if this is the first time that you are completing a project like the one that you are proposing right now, but you do have a history of other similar projects that you've done through your organization, then you can share those. But again, let's look more at your specific situation, and then I'll be happy to provide some suggestions as to what would be the best documents to submit. Will these slides be available after the meeting? So we will be posting this meeting, the recording of this meeting, and if it's helpful also for you to have the slides, I'll be happy to either post them. We can post them definitely on the website, and we'll send out a communication and follow-up communication, but it will be under the funding for sure. When will the panels meet? I hope that was clear from the presentation. So the week of March 14th and 18th. And then let's see. The online application for section 5, it says select and describe one area of emphasis, but I thought you said 2. Yes, I believe that the guidelines should say 2. Let me pull that up real quick. Yes, so it's section 6 for CCSD and section 5 for OSP. So now I'm looking at section 5 for OSP. It says 2. So make sure you're referring to the current guidelines, which are the ones that are posted on the website. So for the achievement and emphasis area, please respond to pick 2 of those prompts. You mentioned reporting data. Are there standard methods for recording or reporting metrics? Good question. Not really, meaning that different organizations have different capacity in terms of how they gather data, collect data, report data, read data. We understand that. A bigger organization may have someone fully dedicated to that. A smaller organization may not, but right now, for example, there's data from the platform you use to send out newsletters. There's data for social media. There's data if you are posting things on your YouTube channel, for example, how many views, how many clicks, all of this information. So I'm not sure, Andrew, if that answers your questions, but we don't recommend standard methods. Because we understand the capacities also are different. But anything that is relevant basically for someone to understand as they're reading, to see the impact, for example, to see the growth, to see the responses of the communities to what you're doing, all of that would be helpful. So any type of metrics that you may have, always think, how is this relevant to what we're doing, and to better sharing the impact and importance of what we're doing with communities, with someone who's getting to know us for the first time, potentially. Okay. Yes, so section 4, where we're asking about title, applicable education, experience, and key, basically of key personnel. Yes, the total character count is 2,000 for total. So for all these key persons, we're not really asking. We know that bios can be longer than that, but give an example of who are the key people who are involved either in your organization or in the project itself. And so that the panelists know that there's someone who has a background in finance, someone who has been producing events for many years, someone who's a curator. So you don't have to really share, if you have 10 people on staff, all of them, but the key people that are relevant specifically to either the activities that you're doing or the project that you're proposing. What evidence do we want in question 2? Question 2 of which section, Fariba? Please clarify so that I can better assist you. Or the actual application, thank you. It says 1 for section 5 in OSP. Then that's a mistake. It should say 2. So thank you for pointing that out. You mean in the Go Smart portal. That's something that will need to be changed. So it's 2, as stated on the guidelines for emphasis areas. Okay, in the past year, the emphasis question had 1 additional prompt about collaboration. Why is no longer an option? It's important for small organizations and service organizations. Great question. So the collaboration piece is something that you can include in your community engagement. Who are your here? So the core community audience, for example, but there is. Let me see, there was a specific question. I'm looking right now at the guidelines. And so you will see that that's a good point. In the emphasis area, there used to be, I believe, 6 prompts, and now we cut them to 4. It's because the ones that we cut, we put as mandatory in other sections. So we agree with you that they were really key. The reason, there was also one about DEI, for example, but we wanted for all organizations to address both. So you'll find that you can put the answer about collaboration and about DEI in other sections of the application, which is why we've moved it to mandatory questions and not optional. Okay. Again, Go Smart. So to clarify, it's yes, emphasis areas, it's 2. We will definitely make the edit, and thank you for pointing that out. So is anything that the guidelines state. So 2 prompts, select 2 prompts for section 5 or 6, depending on what you're applying to. Do you provide a template for board resolution? We don't have templates for that, I believe. You can find any templates or any document that you can use can be found on our funding page. If you have specific questions about this, again, connect with us on one-on-one and we can see exactly what you're looking for and how we can support you. Will panelists refer during discussions to financials in the RFQ? If so, will this figure go into the rankings? So the financial part of the financials of the RFQ, yes. So they will have access to AOI if it's an OSP organization. It will not be ranked. So it's part of just the description of your organization, and for CCSD, the project budget that we shared. So they will have access to that just as a part of the context of your organization. It will not be ranked. It will be used for the award, both information, AOI, and budget. Okay. Great questions. Thank you, everyone. Can you discuss question 3 and section 4? Do you want to know about our space volunteers and in-kind resources? Okay, so question 3 in section 4 is asking about the name, title, applicable education, experience, and other qualifications of each key person responsible for designing and producing the activities. How does each key person contribute to the impact of your activities? Include up to 5 people, such as designers, producers, program managers, and implementers. This is what we want to know. I do believe that there was a different question that addressed the other resources that you're tapping into, and that is question 2 of section 4. What are the resources, including potential partners, your organization will access to operate the activities? So artist housing, rehearsal space, etc. And yes, you can also include in-kind resources and anything that was listed, for example, there. Let's see. This is a question about the Go Smart. Before downloading a PDF, reach out to me and let's see exactly what it is that you needed to download. We should be able to help you. Question 2, Kelly. Yes. So yes, that's exactly what you will include all of that information, in-kind resources as well, volunteers, yes. Questions? And thank you, Kip, for addressing some of the questions already. Okay, let's see, there's something in the chat also. Let's see. So Kelly, I see again that here it was related to the second question of section 4, resources, potential partners. This is where you can include, also going back to the previous question that someone else posed, community partners, for example, and their support. What are the resources you're tapping into basically in order to have your activities and produce your projects? Let me see, can you put the link to technical assistance in the chat? Yes, we can do that. Just 1 second as I will pull that up. And then, will panelists refer to financial articulated in the RFQ? Will this information and any discussion figure into rank? So I believe I answered this earlier. And also the emphasis area. So good question about the budget and spending plan. So if you can address basically COVID, you did address that earlier in the RFQ, and then let me see here for CCSD. I believe that for fiscal year 21 and 22, it was an interactive calculator. It is an interactive calculator, so you will not be able to include notes there. But you can, yes, it is. It won't be, as I said, there are also organizations that are not able to provide that. You can definitely include, I would suggest you include this information about the impact of COVID somewhere in the narrative though, because that's definitely something that may have impacted, for example, your production capacity, but also may have highlighted some things about community engagement, or even in the proposed project is something that you could include in that narrative. So I would say good question, and do mention it. And then if you want, we can connect more also. Thank you, Kip, for including the link, which is now in the chat, to sign up for our one-on-one technical assistance. And here, do you expect an increase in overall OSP funding for fiscal year 23 versus the past 2 years of COVID? I don't know. I hope so. I think that we have great support from our council members and our mayor, so hopefully, and we have lots of you advocating for that. So fingers crossed. We'll see. And then you can have multiple goal alignment, yes, and 2,000 total for that question. So whenever you see the count of the characters is for that specific question, and it's the total count for that specific question. Okay, I think that I just see now that you couldn't see all the questions that are being asked, so I hope that the answers were clear, even if I haven't read out loud all of the questions. Let me know if something else was not clear. It's 6:31. I want to be mindful of everyone's time, but I have a few more minutes if there are more questions. Again, this will be posted on our website. We can also post the slides for you to have. And then we really look forward to receiving all of your proposals. We also look forward to chatting with you in the next couple of weeks about your proposals, to supporting you one-on-one, anything that we can do to help and to make sure that you submit the strongest application possible. We're truly happy to do that. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful evening, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you.